Welcome back to a new AI tutorial. In this video we are going to create a chatbot using LangChain and Streamlit. It's going to be a ChatGPT-like app and we are going to give prompts to our app. It's going to respond with large language models and it's going to remember the things that we wrote and it generates. So we are going to have conversations with our chatbot, and by using Streamlit it's going to be on the web. You can see the final version of the app that we are going to be creating in this video from the screen right now. Let's start coding. Okay, I'm in the Visual Studio Code right now. You can use any code editor that you want, and at the first place I'm going to create a file named app.py and we are going to code chatbot in here, and let's write the logic firstly. It's going to be a chatbot app. It's going to take prompts from us and it's going to respond with the results, and at the end if we say one more thing after that or anything, like we are going to give the second prompt and it's going to respond back with remembering the first one. So it's going to act as a chatbot in here. It will remember the entire conversation. And this is going to be our app's logic and we can directly start coding right now. So at the first place what we are going to do is we are going to do our necessary imports. So it's going to be a web app, and for that we are going to use Streamlit for the user interface. And at next what we are going to do is we are going to import operating system with .environment, import load.environment for our API key operations. And the main framework that we are going to develop this chatbot is going to be the LangChain. So we are going to make some imports from there. We will say from LangChain.chat models import chat OpenAI, and next we will say from LangChain.memory import conversation buffer memory, and we will say from LangChain.chains import conversation chain, and we will say from LangChain.schema import human message with AI message. So next what we are going to do is we are going to say load.environment like this for loading our environment variables, and in here what we are going to be loading is going to be the OpenAI API key. So for getting that key you can just visit the OpenAI API Playground website on web and you can create your API key from there. When you sign up for the first time they give you $5 and you can use that $5 on this video. We are not going to spend more than 30 or 40 cents in this video, and you can use this chatbot as much as you want. So after having an API key, what we are going to do is we are going to come to this file section and we are going to create an environment file like this, and then in here we are going to say OpenAI API key and we are going to paste our API key from the OpenAI API Playground in here. It's going to be something starting with SK and we are going to use that key in here and save this file. I'm going to paste my key and I'm going to be recording back on the app file. You can paste your key in here and you are going to be good to go after that for coding the app. Okay, I have my API key ready on my environment file in the same directory right now. We can continue. I will say Streamlit and I'm going to set the page config at the first place. I will say set page config and I'm going to say page title is going to be AI chatbot, and at next I will say, let's say layout, and I'm going to say centered like this. Next what I'm going to do is I'm going to give our app a title. So let's give it a title like AI chatbot, and next I'm going to set subheader like built with Streamlit, LangChain and GPT-4o. That's the model that we are going to be using in this chatbot. And now what we are going to do is we are going to initialize session state variables. So I will say if chat history not in Streamlit session state, Streamlit session state chat history, and it's going to be an empty list since it's not in the session state. And next, what I'm going to do is I will say if conversation not in Streamlit session state, then we are going to initialize the language model in here. Large language model is going to be Chat OpenAI, the thing that we import in here. Next, we are going to pass like model name is going to be GPT-4o, and let's set the temperature like 0.7. And next, I'm going to say OpenAI API key. I'm going to set it like operating system, get environment, and I'm going to pass OpenAI API key in here. So here we initialized our language model. Next, I'm going to set memory like this, and I'm going to add conversation buffer memory in here. I'm going to say return messages, and it's going to be true like this. Next, we are going to initialize the conversation chain. So I will say Streamlit session state that conversation, and it's going to be conversation chain like this, and we are going to pass our language model in here with the memory we have initialized, and I'm going to set the variables as false. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to display the chat history. So in here we are going to iterate over the list that we create in here. I'm going to say for message in Streamlit session state dot chat history, and I will say if is instance, and I will say message with the human message in here. I'm going to be using the thing that we import. I'm going to say Streamlit, actually before that I will say with Streamlit chat message user, and I'm going to say in here Streamlit write message dot content. Next, I will say else in this if statement. I will say with Streamlit chat message assistant like this. I'm going to say Streamlit write message content like this. Great. So next we are going to take the user input. User input is going to be Streamlit chat input, and we will say type your message here. Okay. Next, I'm going to say if user enters an input with if user input, we will say add user message to chat history at the first place. So I will say Streamlit session state dot chat history dot append, and I'm going to say human message, and in here I'm going to pass the content as user input. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to display the user message. So Streamlit chat message like this. Actually it needs to be underscore instead of question mark like this. I'm going to delete one of this, and I will say user, and I'm going to say Streamlit write user input. Great. And now we are going to generate the response. So with Streamlit chat message assistant, we will say with Streamlit spinner thinking like this. Response is going to be Streamlit session state conversation dot predict input is going to be user input. Next, I'm going to say Streamlit write, and I will pass the response in here like this. And in here we have a final thing to do. We will say in this if block, we are going to say Streamlit session state. We are going to add AI response to the chat history. So chat history dot append, and we will say AI message, and we are going to say content is going to be the response like this. Actually, it's correct right now. Okay. Now we are going to add a sidebar with options. So I will say with Streamlit sidebar Streamlit.title options, and in here I'm going to add something like clear chat history. So in here I'm going to say if Streamlit.button clear chat history, and we will say Streamlit session state chat history. It's going to be an empty list again if user presses this clear chat history button. And also we need to reset the conversation memory. So we will say memory is going to be conversation buffer memory, and return messages is going to be true. We are going to reassign this in here, and we are going to reinitialize the large language model for reassigning the conversation chain. So it's going to be chat OpenAI again, and model name GPT-4o, and temperature, let's set it like 0.7 again. Next we are going to say OpenAI API key is going to be operating system get environment, and in here we are going to give the OpenAI API key environment variable like this. And at the conversation chain side, which is the important part in here, we are going to say Streamlit session state dot conversation, and we are going to say conversation chain and large language model memory and verbose false like this. And at the end we are going to say Streamlit dot rerun for refreshing the page on there. And all of this code needs to be in this clear chat history button if block. So I'm going to select all of them and press tab one time for putting them all inside. And we can add the about section in here before running our app, like we can say Streamlit, and then we can say subheader about, and let's type an about section. I will say Streamlit markdown, and I'm going to add something like this. Actually, I'm going to just delete this stuff in here. We can directly type, then I'm going to take them all in quotes. I'm going to say, let's type the frameworks bold, Streamlit, and we use LangChain in here, and we use GPT-4o like this. And let's type something like this chatbot uses, and we can add the stuff like this, and we are going to say conversation buffer memory, and let's type it bold in here too, to remember previous messages. GPT-4o as the language model, and for the conversation management, and Streamlit for the web interface. And let's do this. Okay, great. Now it looks pretty good and our app is ready to go. So let's try our app. Then I'm going to summarize this entire code from the start. So for running our app, we are going to save this file at the first place. Next, we are going to type Streamlit run app.py, your file name in here. If you name your file differently, you need to write the file name. So I'm going to press enter on this, and next our app is going to be opened in our localhost address in here. If it's not showed up in your browser, you can just copy this link or use Control click or Command click for reaching to the app. You can just copy paste this on your browser, and I'm going to be re-recording on my browser right now for testing our app. So here's our app in the localhost address. In here I'm going to say settings at the first place for showing you. We can change the app theme in here. We can say light or dark. I'm going to keep it in dark right now, and our app is looking really good right now. I'm going to open the sidebar, and here we can see we have the clear chat history option, and we have the about section that we defined. Now let's test our app. So I'm going to start with a simple thing, like I'm going to say I'm Honor and I am working as a data scientist. And now actually I see that we made a typo on the append in here, so I'm just going to fix this back in the code editor. I didn't see when I was coding the app, so we are in the code editor again. I'm going to make this append. I'm going to save my file. We don't need to start the Streamlit app again. We just need to refresh the page on the browser. So I'm going to go back to the browser right now after this fix. And in here, if you go to this section, we are going to see that it's going to say source file is changed. So if we just say rerun in here, Streamlit is going to rerun with the new codes. So let's try again. I will say I am Honor and I am working as a data scientist. I am typing this because I'm going to check if it's going to remember me and my job when I enter a new message right now. So it says, hello Honor, it's great to meet you. Being a data scientist sounds fascinating, etc. And now I'm going to ask what is my name and what is my job for testing our app. So it says your name is Honor and you work as a data scientist. So great, it remembers the message that we sent in here. So now I'm going to go to this section, to the sub. I lost the internet connection when I was testing the app, so I'm going to rewrite all of that stuff. I'm Honor and I'm working as a data scientist. Let's paste it in here. And next I'm going to say what is my name and job, and it's going to respond with my name and job. Now I'm going to come to here and try this clear chat history button, and it's cleaned, it's working great. So we have a chatbot that we can talk right now and we can manage its chat history. So let's type something like I am working on neural networks and I need a brief introduction. Can you give me a detailed summary of the neural networks? Let's see the response of our bot. And it says thinking. Yeah, here it is. So it says sure, neural networks are a subset of machine learning, training process, types of neural networks, applications, challenges. Okay, let's ask more specific things. So I will say, what is weight pruning? And let's see its response right now. It says thinking, and here it is. So in here we can see that weight pruning is a technique used in neural networks to reduce the size and computational demands of a model by removing less important weights or connections. Great. So let's ask another thing about deep learning. I will say, what is dropout layer? And let's see our response in here right now. It says thinking. And here is our response. The dropout layer is a regularization technique used in neural networks. Great. So it's working smoothly and we have a chatbot and we can talk about it on any topic. We can say, what is latent space in LLMs? Like this. And it's going to respond with in the context of large language models, a latent space is a high dimensional space where the model represents various features of the input data. And let's make a final test on there. So I'm going to type something like, okay, let's do a final example. I will say, give me one paragraph explanations of the activation functions in the context of deep learning. And I'm going to be recording when it generates the text. So here is our text. It says activation functions are a crucial component in deep learning. Okay, I will say now list them and write their differences and what are they with bullet points. So let's see the response right now. It needs to remember the activation functions and it needs to give them in list type. Let's wait for our response. Okay, it gave out the text. I'm recording. Here we can see that it generated sigmoid, ReLU and leaky ReLU softmax, and we have our list in here. It remembered our previous entry and generated response based on it. Great. I'm going to go back to the code editor and summarize the code right now. Okay, we can close the terminal right now, and in here I'm going to summarize our app. We import Streamlit for the web app, data environment and operating system for loading our API key, and from LangChain we import Chat OpenAI for chatting, conversation buffer memory for giving our app a memory, conversation chain for saving the messages, and from the schema we import human message with AI message for saving our messages in the chat history, and we use load.environment in here for loading our API key from the environment file we have. Next we set the page config, and page title in here is AI Chatbot and layout is centered. Next up we give our app title with the name AI Chatbot. We add a subheader as built with Streamlit, LangChain and GPT-4o. Next we initialize session state variables in here, chat history and conversation like this using the LLM and memory. On conversation chain, in here we initialize the large language model, and in here we initialize the memory. Next in here we display the chat history. In here we say for message in Streamlit session state chat history, if is instance message human message, we type like this, else with chat message we use assistant. Since it's not the user message, we use message.content. In here we take the chat input from the user, and if user enters something we make this if block run, and we say if user enters something then add its message to the chat history, then write it on the screen. Next up take the response from the LLM and write it on the screen, and at the final add it to the chat history. And at the end we say we want a sidebar on our app, and in the sidebar we give a title as options. Next we clear the chat history with the chat history button in here. We set an empty list to the chat history, then we define the memory again with initializing the language model again. We create the conversation chain in here, reinitialize, and then we use streamlit.rerun. And we write the about section in the sidebar we have, and we say this chatbot uses this technology is like this. And it's the end of the video. We created a chatbot under 100 lines of code. Great, thanks for watching. Let's get to the outro. Thanks for watching this tutorial on creating a chatbot using Streamlit and LangChain. I have a playlist named AI Tutorials where I have more than 20 videos just like this one. You can reach that playlist from the cards of this video or from the link in the description. Also, I'm sharing a new video every week on my channel about data science. You can subscribe for more. Have a great day.